Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country powered by Backcourt Marketing. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale on a victorious Tuesday night. You know, this is kind of one of those weird weeks, Shane. We were thinking about when do we do the podcast, and stupid ESPN and college basketball decided to schedule Arizona USC at 9 o'clock our time. And then Arizona has a game in less than 48 hours. So it doesn't really leave us a lot of time to do a podcast. So here we are at 11 o'clock on Tuesday night, recording this one. Arizona just wrapping up against USC, a dominant victory. We'll get into that. We're going to do just kind of an abbreviated show here, buy or sell, powered by our friends at Ice Shaker. And then we'll preview, and we're not going to have a guest segment this week. We're just going to preview what things look like this weekend, run over women's basketball scenarios and such. But Shane, just your initial thoughts. I think Arizona played their best first half the best half of basketball that we saw all season in the first half.
Yeah, let me back up for a second, Eric. You know what's funny? Do you remember way back in 2021, we were talking about this 4-game stretch Arizona had?
Yeah,
Illinois, Tennessee, UCLA, USC.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're talking about were they going to go 2-2 or 3-1 or whatever? Well, we finally got the USC game in. You know, 2 of those games were delayed because of COVID. And they only went 2-2 in those 4 games. They're what 24-1 against everyone else. So who cares?
Yeah.
And the one it came the other night. So yeah, best half of basketball. I you know, as cynical as I am, I was trying not to think about it, but I actually in the back of my head was thinking, I feel like they're going to come out pissed.
No, but you called it last week. Now, Shane, you said on last week's show, and we recorded it early in the week, that Arizona was going to probably, you just had a bad feeling against Colorado and you thought they were going to come back against USC. So I'm going to give you your credit there.
Did I call that? I don't remember that.
I think you did. I think we need to go back and check.
Here's why I think I said they were going to, I thought they were going to go 2-1. And I thought if they lost to Colorado, they'd come back and beat USC. If they beat Colorado, they'd lose to USC. So I hedged a little bit, but I appreciate that. I'll take it. Yeah. They said they go 2-1 and they went 2-1. And then in terms of seeding for the NCAA tournament, I think they're in a situation. Well, we're going to maybe talk buy and sell a little bit. Yeah. We're going to get to that. I won't get ahead of myself. Let's just say I think they're in good shape, and we'll talk about that.
Okay. All right. Let's start. Arizona just wrapping it up here as we get going in buy or sell, powered by Backcourt Marketing.
91.7 by Ice Shaker, which we have right here.
Yeah, you don't mean my camera's all weird tonight, but this is buy or sell. Powered by Ice Shaker. Boy, it's late at night. So that's a pretty cool Ice Shaker. Check them out, iceshaker.com. We actually had a friend purchase some Ice Shakers with the promo code Wildcat Country. Is that correct, Shane?
Yeah, $5 off. Use the promo code Wildcat Country, and you can get your own Wildcat Country Ice Shaker, which I'm displaying here for watching the live stream.
Now, my friend did not buy that. He bought 2 others that he thought were cool on the website. So check out the website. There's a lot of different varieties. But these things are awesome. Mine in the video doesn't look so good, but yours does. So this
you have one of those phantom Ice Shakers.
Let's try this in one fell swoop. This is buy or sell powered by Ice Shaker on Wildcat Country, powered by Backcourt Marketing.
Nailed it.
That's how you do it. Okay, number 1. After the performance against USC, it is fair to call the Colorado loss on Saturday a fluke. Do you buy or sell that notion?
Well, I'll buy it. If you're calling it if you mean by fluke, it means it's not indicative of Arizona basketball. Correct. Then absolutely, of course, yeah. And it was somewhat predictable. That trip is always difficult. You know, our friend Bruce Pascoe noted that Arizona is won 2 of their last 8 games before. This is before their game in Boulder at Colorado. So they usually lose this game. You have back-to-back games in high altitudes.
Yep.
Now, with that said, I think ASU beat both teams. So, you know, but Colorado, look, Arizona gets everyone's best shot. It was senior day, all the emotion before the game. You saw one of their seniors crying as he, gets introduced. It's like, no, crap, they're going to go all out for this game. And then, that's what happened. Of course, former Arizona commit and former Wildcat Country guest KJ Simpson has a big game, blah, blah, blah. So USC comes back. It's a wide out at senior day. And Arizona's like, yeah, you know what? I got your senior day right here. We've been there, done that. So in USC, part of it, I think USC missed some shots that they typically make early in the game, and that's helped set the tone. But Arizona, no. I'm just saying USC didn't play its best either. But this was more about Arizona playing very well.
Oh yeah,
the 3-point shooting. Eric, when Arizona makes its threes, shoots 40% from 3 or close to that, and doesn't commit more than 12 turnovers. I don't think they had that many tonight. they can beat anyone. Those are their only two weaknesses. And if they cancel those out, if they don't do those things in a game, they can beat anyone in the country. So, circling back to your question, absolutely buy. Of course, it was a fluke. They were due for a clunker. They got it out of the way. I don't think any of us panicked like some of us did after the UCLA game. They're back on track, and they've clinched the Pac-12, and it's awesome.
So Arizona tonight, 12 of 25 from three-point range, 48%. Outstanding. I mean, shot 55.6% from the field, 21 assists. I mean, on 35 made baskets. I mean, that's fantastic. It was just a brilliant performance. Arizona in the first half outscored USC 51-27. This to me was Arizona's best half, as I brought up earlier in the show. This was their best half of basketball that I have watched all year against a really good USC team.
Just 7 turnovers. Just 7 turnovers. I mean, if they commit 7 turnovers, look, they shot 48% from 3. I don't expect that. But if they shoot 38% from 3 and commit that level of turnovers, they're I don't want to say the words, but they're going very deep in the tournament.
Well, and the one thing that I noticed tonight, especially in the first half, was the defense was so much better than we saw on Saturday night. And that's going to be a key for Arizona. If the defense continues to be this good, Arizona is going to be very dangerous going forward. All right, number 2. This is kind of a weird one, Shane, but to me, and you may disagree. I know Arizona has 3 losses. They're all on the road this year. But to me, the Wildcats almost look more comfortable when they play in a road environment than they do at home. It's kind of a weird one. Are you buying or selling that?
I'll sell it. I see what you're saying, but some of Arizona's worst starts have also come on the road. So I think at times they certainly do. That 2-minute stretch against ASU in Tempe in the second half where it was just dunk after dunk. And that was basically like that 2-minute stretch against ASU. That was the entire first half against USC.
Right.
So they've looked very good, but their 3 losses are on the road. I think that they maybe expect the home fans to boost them a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if they came out flat against Stanford and the McHale Center crowd is like, "Hey guys, what are you doing? Wake up!" They get behind by double digits, they come back and win by 20.
Yeah.
But at times they have, but I wouldn't go as far as saying they're better on the road because, like you said, they've lost all 3 games this season. All 3 losses have come on the road, and they've gotten off to some very bad starts against some bad teams.
Yeah, and I think here's why I say that. It seems like this team feeds off opposing crowds when they're cheering on the home team. I mean, even the loss against Tennessee. I mean, that Arizona was in the game. They've had 2 clunkers all year, and it was against obviously UCLA and Colorado. I had mentioned the other week. Does Arizona need to lose a game that they probably shouldn't? And we're kind of like, well, that's a weird question, but still, well, they got that out of the way. It makes me kind of feel better going forward. It's like, all right, we got that bad loss, as we consider it, bad loss out of the way. And I'm optimistic, obviously. I mean, what you saw tonight, I don't think any Wildcat fan can, after watching the game tonight, I don't think any Wildcat fan can not be excited for what is going to happen going forward.
Look, Eric, this team can win the national championship
if
they play their best. If they avoid a clunker in the NCAA tournament, that's all it is. The talent is there. They're that good. They're that confident. And that's just as important as the talent. And they like each other. They pass the ball. No one looks to be a hero. There's no hero ball on this team at all. I love that as well. They just have to put it together 6 games in a row. And it's easier said than done, but that's all there is to it. If they play like they did like against USC, they'll win the whole thing. And I'm not predicting it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying if they do, they can beat anyone. We've seen it. We've seen enough of that. It's just they have to avoid that letdown like we saw against Colorado, which I'm choosing as of now, Eric, to blame on the altitude.
Yes. Okay, fair. And I have no disagreement with that. Okay, let's talk about the NCAA tournament. Number 3 in buy or sell, presented by Ice Shaker. Basically, Arizona after tonight has barring a clunker this weekend, assuming they win both games this weekend, Arizona is a lock for a number 1 seed. Do you buy or sell that?
I buy that they're very close to being in one. Yes.
If they win this weekend, if
they beat
games.
Stanford and Cal, which they darn well better, then I think that I think there's like a 90% chance they'll be a 1. I would feel better if they won at least 1 game in the Pac-12 tournament.
Okay.
But
so you say 3 more wins is all it's going to take for Arizona. So even if they lose 1 this weekend, God forbid, if they win 2 in the Pac-12 tournament and make it to the finals, is that good enough?
If they lose 1 this weekend, then I think that might change some things. And it might also depend on whether it gets against Cal or Stanford, because Cal would be a worse loss. Go ahead. You're gonna say
But you
this.
have to look at it this way, Shane. The
Yeah.
teams that are chasing Arizona right now, Kansas lost tonight. I think that pretty much you're going to take them out of the number one seed
Unless they
ranking.
win the Big 12 tournament, which
Yeah,
that could get them back in.
I mean, exactly. So Baylor and Kansas, one of those teams has to lose. Auburn, Kentucky, one of those teams has to lose. I think Gonzaga and Duke are in great positions. I mean, I think you have 5 teams for a one seed. Maybe you could throw Wisconsin in there if they run the table. It was a big win over Purdue tonight. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, you have 5 teams. Eliminate one in the Big 12, eliminate one in the SEC. I like Arizona's chances. I would say right now, win both this weekend, regardless of what happens next week, as long as it's not a blowout in the first game of the Pac-12 tournament. I think they have a 1 seed, so I'm going to buy
I think a 95% chance that you're right about that. If they win both games at home against Stanford and Cal, if they win their first game of the Pac-12 tournament, then I think it's a lock.
So how do you, if you're a voter or a committee member, how do you watch the first half of tonight's game and be like, that's not a 1 seed? Like
No.
you almost can't.
Well, who stayed up late enough though?
Oh, I mean, when you go, all right, fine. So you went to bed. You're on the East Coast. You went to bed early. You wake up. You see Arizona wins by 20 at USC. You look at the box score and you're like, damn, they dropped 51 in the first half. I mean, I don't need to see a highlight. I can just read a box score and that tells me everything I need to know.
This may be Arizona's most impressive win this season, not just in terms of wire to wire, but in terms of the net rankings. Beating USC at home was big. Winning Illinois. I guess maybe that was a little bit better. Well, USC was, I would say, in terms of net rankings, this was their most impressive conference.
The way they did it, though, Shane.
Sure. Now, I'm just saying in terms of the raw numbers. Regardless of the score, the fact that they won this game, it is a very strong quad 1 win. They don't have as many quad 1 wins as some other teams vying for 1 seeds, but they have 2 losses. They have 1 loss just outside of quad 1. And they really don't have any bad losses, and they haven't compiled a bunch of quad 4 cupcake victories either. So they don't have the most impressive resume in terms of beating great teams, but they answered every call that they've had. They've beaten, aside from Tennessee, they've beaten every team they played this season. And win over UCLA, 2 wins over USC, the win at Illinois, which has looked good throughout the season. The win over Wyoming still looks very good.
Michigan
looks good enough. It is a quad 1 win, even though Michigan hasn't looked great. It's a quad 1 win because it was a win over a top 50 team on a neutral site. So more than enough. I think that they're a 1 seed, and again, barring a collapse this weekend, they're probably going to be a 1, but probably in the South region, as long as Gonzaga doesn't.
Yeah, that's fine. San Antonio is plenty fine with me. No argument there. There'll be plenty of Wildcat fans from across the country who will travel to San Antonio. Okay, number 4 in buy or sell. I think I saw you get into it with somebody about this, and I took a note this weekend. Somebody, I believe, said to you, Tommy Lloyd doesn't deserve Coach of the Year because he inherited Sean Miller's talent. Do you buy or sell that notion?
Well, no one specifically said it, but it seems to be one of the things that I've seen from ESPN pundits, of course, and others, is the fact is Arizona was not ranked in the top 25 before the season began, but now that Arizona is ranked number 2 in the country, we get Tommy Lloyd is he's been great, but he's not in the same level as so and so. Think about all the talent he got from Sean Miller. So, okay, so why didn't you rank Arizona in the top 25 to begin the season then? And the answer is simple. They lost a lot of talent.
Sure.
They got a lot of guys back, but we've talked about this. James Akinjo and Terrell Brown and Jordan Brown and Daniel Bacho, and I know I'm forgetting one.
Ira Lee.
Ira Lee. There's one other that I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically they lost a full
Jamal Baker.
That's the other one I'm trying to think of. But that you could start 5 guys on a lot of teams.
Yep.
Although those guys could all be starters on a lot of teams, including a couple of Pac-12 teams. So it's absurd. Yes, he inherited a good situation. He took I think it was a great marriage of Sean Miller's guys with Tommy Lloyd's personality. It just so happened that maybe he was a better fit for these guys. And he's also looks like he's a pretty darn good coach. This is our first taste of him as a head coach. But I think it's anyone's thinking, well, he got a lot of, inherited a lot of Sean Miller's talent. Okay. If you didn't rank them in the top 10 or, the little in the top 25 to start the season, then that take is BS. There are other coaches under consideration for sure. But to not consider Tommy Lloyd for that reason, it's hypocritical.
Sorry, Shane, it's a slam dunk. Tom, you cannot give me an argument of a team that starts outside the top 25 at the start of the year. I don't care who's talent or whatnot. I don't care if you or I were coaching and they could have an all-star team. They're outside the top 25. They are now the number 2 team in the country. There's no other. Shut the door on every other argument.
Of their top 6 scorers from last season. Do you know how many came back this season? 2. 2 of
Mathurin would be
Mathurin and Tubelis.
Yeah,
those are the 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why they were ranked outside the top 25. I mean, I remember I'm not picking on Aaron Torres. I just remember that he had Arizona in his top 10 right after the end of last season. But then Sean Miller left and a lot of guys left, and he took them out like a lot of people did. And now that we're at the end of the season and Arizona's just won the Pac-12 with 2 games to spare.
Aaron's a genius.
Yeah.
Aaron Torres, you're a genius.
No. He took them out of the top 25.
Still, he saw the future very early.
No. I like Aaron. I'm just using him as an example. And there's think about in the Pac-12 media polls. Guys ranking 4th, 5th.
Pasco had him 6th or
Bruce
something.
Pasco,
right?
our friend Bruce Pasco had him 6th, and I personally would add them probably around the same range. I think we talked about that.
I said I would put him top 3 or 4. I think I had him
4th or 5th. I thought they were rated about where they should have been before the season started. I was certain. I thought it was an absolute lock, Eric, that UCLA was going to win the Pac-12.
Me too. I thought UCLA was the best team in the country. And I mean, you never know what happens in the tournament. This team is tournament tested. I still wouldn't want to play UCLA anytime soon, but they're really good. I don't want to face them in the Pac-12 tournament, but okay. Number 5. So Arizona got a big commit on Monday. Kylen Boswell, 5-star point guard out of Chandler, committed to the Wildcats. I mean, it's awesome. I think he's the number 13 player in the country for 2023, but he has the option to recommit to the 2022 class. Or to reclassify for the 2022 class.
Right.
So my take here is it's kind of I'm not really in favor of Boswell reclassifying to next year because I want to see what Arizona can do with this team coming back and not having minutes taken away, assuming Mathurin and Kyer are the only ones that leave out of the big guys. Would you agree that, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing that if Boswell stays committed to 2023? How about that?
If it's just Mathurin and Kyer, then I guess I would buy it. But Arizona's going to need to add some commits or some transfers.
You're right. Agreed.
Next season as well.
Yeah.
They have Dylan Anderson right now, and that's it. And I think that's largely because, as our friend Matt Moreno mentioned, that Arizona's being very careful with scholarships because they don't know how many they're going to have to offer. With the pending situation with the IARP,
right?
Good chance they're looking at some serious scholarship reductions.
Sure.
So they're being very picky with who they offer. So it just depends on a lot of things. I'm not trying to bypass your question, but who else are they going to add in terms of freshmen for next season? Who are they going to add?
You're not. You're going after transfers, and that's where Arizona, assuming they bring back just about everybody, is in a good place to go get 1 or 2 significant grad transfers. Now, if you can't get one of those, and absolutely you get Boswell to have him recommit, but as of right now, I'm under the assumption that Arizona will be able to go get some notable grad transfers, and therefore I would rather see Boswell come in 2023 when Arizona's rebuilding a little bit.
Hard to think about that a little bit more, but
kind of a weird question. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not weird at all. But I think that if he's able to play next season, and I wouldn't necessarily say no, and just because he's a top 20 or top 30 commit, depending on what service you look at, doesn't mean he's going to be a star right away. I hope he is, but that's not a given. There are a lot of guys who come in and they end up being 2 or 3 year guys or 4 year guys because they just weren't as good, at least right off the bat, as we thought. So I think you're worried about, okay, we don't want to lose Boswell as a one and done guy, and lose him in the shuffle. That's a possibility, but I think maybe it's a risk you have to take.
Fair.
And you never know. And I've thought about this too, Eric. We've had so many commits on our podcast, football and basketball.
Yep.
I have gone out of my way to not ask Kylen Boswell.
Good. Yep.
Because
we
have the Wildcat country curse. We had KJ Simpson. We've had a bunch of guys on who have decommitted and gone somewhere
literally
else.
Like 7 or 8 guys.
Most of them.
Yeah, the majority of the commits that we've had on have decommitted. It's crazy. All right, I have 2 bonus questions. This is one I'm adding. It was not on my itinerary. It gets me really annoyed, Shane, when I see ASU fans in particular brag about a sweep when Arizona doesn't get one. Is that the most annoying argument in sports when a losing team who's gotten their asses kicked by their rivals, is bragging about winning, about sweeping a weekend when their more successful rival does not? You see what I'm saying there?
Is that a buy or sell question? A
No, it's
buy
just
that it's the
it's
most annoying.
just a random question. Yeah.
No, it is, but I think that I guess it's a valid point, but I think it's also ASU sort of rides Arizona's coattails sometimes. We
Yeah.
haven't seen that in a while, but we saw that all the time in the Lute Olson era, where ASU would eh, often at home. Arizona would beat. Like we saw that with UCLA recently. They beat UCLA in a big showdown, and then UCLA lays an egg a couple nights later because they were. It's like, yeah, well, our big game's done. Now we got to go face this other team
Right.
up north.
Yeah.
So I think there's some of that, and you see that on the road sometimes too. Colorado lost by 17 to ASU, and then comes
Hey, listen,
back.
they're playing better. ASU's playing a lot better, Shane.
They
It's
are.
just this stupid argument on Twitter. Your team got whooped by Arizona twice. I
Well,
mean,
if their
come
argument
on.
is ASU's better right now, then of course not. But
I mean, come on. It's
college basketball is random. I mean, Arizona had to rally to beat USC at home, and then they destroyed them from wire to wire in LA. So you just never
I
know.
get it. All right. So the last buy or sell question, the bonus question is, of Arizona's starting lineup this year, I would have put Kerr Kriisa as the least likely player to have a triple double amongst the starting five. Would you have bought or sold that going into last Thursday's game in Utah?
Boy, that's a good one. That I credit Mr. Cohen. That's
Thank
a good
you.
question.
Thank you.
The only other guy who might be less likely would be Christian Coloco, but then you think maybe triple double with blocks. With
Yeah.
blocks, yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I don't know. Dalen Terry is probably the
For
most
sure.
likely.
He was the most, him or Matherin were the most likely.
Yeah,
Tabellas,
Cabellas maybe.
maybe, with assists.
Sure,
I
sure.
mean, so it's Coloco
Coloco
or
or Creasa. I think it's a
yeah.
close one between them. I'll give you the. It's a creative question. I'll give you the buy on that one.
Okay, yeah, because I would not have had Kirk Kriisa getting 10 rebounds under
No.
any circumstances. Okay?
Well, and he really you see the frustration when I think it was Tubelis made a shot late in the game, and I think Creasa belted out the F word because he really wanted that rebound.
And you know what? Good for Tommy Lloyd for letting him back in the game to get it. That's a really cool thing.
It's a morale booster.
Now the next time we have our buddy Mr. Triple Double, Matt Muehlbach on, we'll talk about that with him. Kirk Kriisa's triple double. Not the first guy, the second guy, the third guy, or maybe the fourth guy would have picked for Arizona to do that this year, but cool that Kerr got that last Thursday. All right, that is Buy or Sell, powered by Ice Shaker. Really appreciate their support. Check them out, iceshaker.com. It is owned by our old fullback, Chris Gronkowski at the University of Arizona, and he does a great job, and these things are absolutely legit, and I absolutely love my two ice shakers that I have, even though the one that I'm holding up is really blurry.
Every time I take a sip, Eric, I think about Chris Gronkowski's touchdown against BYU in the Las Vegas Bowl.
Such a good memory. I just remember how cold I was that night. All right. Well, we don't have like a fancy music to segue into the rest of the show. So
You want me to hum something?
No, it's okay. We'll just go right into it. I want to do a recap, as we normally do, of the other Wildcat sports. Just go over this quick. Baseball is 8-1. They swept I believe it was Milwaukee this weekend, but boy, they got pounded by GCU as 19-3.
Yeah, I told them to drive back to Phoenix.
Yeah, and I saw like ASU fans and like anti-U of A fans rejoicing in that, and I was like, God, it's like
it's one game
February.
though. And, baseball's kind of weird.
Good for GCU. Yeah, good.
I mean,
for GCU.
if Arizona lost by 30 points in men's basketball to GCU, that's one thing. But baseball, if they had a 4-game series, they probably would have won 3 out of 4, or at least gotten a split. So, but they came back. They're what is this? Like you said, 8-1 now.
8-1. Yep.
Dixie State in a pitcher's duel.
2-1. 2-1 tonight. Yep. And
they look like a very well-rounded team. Maybe even more so than last year. It's early. They haven't faced a lot of stiff competition. But their pitching might be a little bit. I mean, it's all about their hitting last year. Their pitching might be a little bit stronger this year.
I don't love 19-3, but it was a Tuesday night game. But I get that. Okay,
yeah, there's one game.
All right, so the team that I am kind of concerned about is the softball team. They have, they got smoked by number 2 Alabama. Got run ruled 11-0. They're 10-4, but they have some other issues. What's going on there, Shane?
Well, they lost one of their pitchers is out indefinitely.
Hannah Bowen, yeah.
Hannah Bowen, yeah.
What do we know? What do we know about her? Yeah, what do we know about what's going on with that situation?
Nothing. Nothing. It's kind of a. I mean, I'm not comparing it to, but in terms of what we know, it's sort of like Kim Aiken. Caitlin
Well, who's
Lowe.
now off the team? Yeah, who they announced that Kim Aiken's gone off the team.
Right,
So
right,
yeah,
right. But for a while, it was Caitlin Lowe. Or Caitlin was just said that she's not a rotation issue. She's just out indefinitely, so we
well, we
don't
wish
know
her the
what's going
best.
on there.
We
Well,
wish Hannah Bowen
of
the
course,
best. Yeah.
yeah. But I think it could be in terms of Arizona standards, it could be a rough season.
Yeah.
You don't have the pitching. You don't have the pitching. I still they have a ton of great hitting. Carly Scubin, who I'd like to get on this podcast at some point, is phenomenal. But I think that this first year in the Caitlin Lowe era might be a little below Arizona's expectations. I think she's going to do very well. It's just I think in softball, it's all about having a top 10 national pitcher, and
Yep.
Arizona just doesn't have one this year.
That's a good point. Well, Caitlin, listen, she gets a pass. It's her first year.
Well, she's going to do great. She's going to do great.
She's gonna do great. Yeah, but it's her first year and she needs pitching. You're right. So doesn't help when your number one pitcher is not pitching for you. I'm really excited. Football spring practice starts tomorrow, March 2nd. As you guys are probably listening to us, football is practicing. I am so excited. We will talk a lot about that. We'll preview next week's guest lineup at the end of the show.
We're excited about it.
Off the
Let's
charts.
just say we're excited about it.
Off the charts excited about next week's guest lineup. Somebody you would not think would come on an Arizona podcast is scheduled to come on. We will see if it actually happens. I'll just
if you thought Wilton Spate was off the wall,
this will be the most accomplished guest in Wildcat country history.
Wow.
I would say, I'm saying as far as the most significant in terms of college sports guest that we have ever had on the program.
Okay.
If it comes true, we'll tell you about it. We're not going to give away the name. We want you guys to be in suspense. But okay, I want to talk about women's basketball, Shane. They last Thursday had a rough one against UCLA. It was brutal. Came back to beat USC on senior day. The NCAA selection committee did like these pre-rankings and had Arizona at number 11. So they just need to hold a top 16 seed, and then top 16 ranking, and they will host a quartet on their home court at McHale Center, which would be a huge advantage for them. Okay, so now they're going to the Pac-12 tournament as the 4 seed, and they play the winner of Colorado and Washington at 1:00 on Thursday. What does Arizona need to do this weekend in order to secure that top 4 seed in the women's tournament?
Well, first of all, going back to their last 2 home games, not having Kate Reese is massive, and they definitely missed her. I wasn't surprised the loss to UCLA. I was really that they needed to beat USC. I was thinking, they really need at least a split, in order to stay in the top 16 securely, because USC is not a good team. They lost at USC earlier in the season, and they came back and they beat them. They were down double digits early. Sam Thomas, who we're hopeful to talk to before the NCAA tournament, had a big 3 late in that game. And I was really happy that they were up by just enough late in that game so they could take the seniors out and give them the ovation they deserve. It's kind of a weird thing, though, because it's senior day. It's like, okay, it's the last game at McHale, except it's probably not going to be the last game at McHale. Hopefully not the last game. So hopefully 2 more. But in terms of the seeding, I think they're probably in regardless of what happens. I think that certainly winning beating Colorado or Washington in that first round game would be important. Would be nice in terms of securing it. I don't know about that. I think they might be. And well, the other thing, Eric, is the committee considers injuries as well. So not having your top scorer, Kate Reese, your top rebounder, that makes a difference. So hopefully Kate will be back for the NCAA tournament. I'm guessing she's not going to be back for the Pac-12 tournament.
No, I wouldn't think so either.
I wouldn't think so.
And you would think so if Arizona were to beat Colorado or Washington, likely Colorado, they would play Stanford again in the semifinals. Probably not a great matchup considering Kate Reese likely not to play. I think Arizona needs one more win to host a regional on their home floor. We will have a lot to talk about next week in advance of the selection of the bracket, which is the following weekend for both men's and women. So will be interesting to see what's up with that. Kind of weird that the women are a week ahead of the men with that, but hey, to each their own. All right. Want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Backcourt Marketing. Check them out, backcourtmarketing.com or on Twitter at backcourtmktg. Always appreciate their support. And we have, it's going to be an exciting March. We're recording this on March 1st, and who knows? Will we be talking about Arizona basketball still playing at the end of March? Be pretty exciting, but we want to thank our friends at Backcourt Marketing for all of their support. And if you know a business that needs some social media help, check them out, backcourtmarketing.com, and you can get rewarded. All right, it's time for our final predictions of the regular season. Shane, Arizona plays Stanford and Cal. Will they have any trouble this weekend at home against these two Bay Area schools?
Oh, they'll probably make it more difficult than it should be against at least one of the teams. You just know them, and it's college basketball. I think it's just the nature of the beast. I would be surprised if they came out a little flat against one of the two teams, maybe Stanford. But no, I don't. I'll make this prediction. One of the games they're going to win by single digits, even if it's like 8 or 9 points. And there's a couple of garbage time baskets by Stanford or Cal. The other one, I think one's going to be a blowout. I think the other one's going to be a little too closer than it should be, but they'll get the job done. There's a 1 seed on the line. They're at home. I think that if they struggle a little bit, which I think they might, just because they're such an arrogant team, and I think that they think they're indestructible again, and they need that wake up call. Oh yeah, we actually got to play. The fans will drag them past the finish line if they have to. Hopefully it won't come to that. But they took care of business in the Bay Area earlier this season. So yeah, I think they'll win both games. I think they'll all but lock up a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. But again, I think one win in the Pac-12 tournament, I feel a lot better. But I think they'll win both.
All right, so I agree with the Stanford game on Thursday. I think Arizona wins both games by double digits. I don't think Stanford's that good. I think they got blown out by Cal the other day, and Cal's not very good. I think Arizona pace Cal on Saturday on Senior Day, which is basically Justin Kier's 1 year.
Entire day,
yeah, but it's also Ben Mather in his 2 years. Because he's not coming back next year. We know that. He's going to be a lottery pick in the NBA draft. As far as Stanford goes, it's less than 48 hours from the time this game ended to that game being played.
That's another thing.
Not great. That's pretty bad scheduling by the Pac-12. In fact, it's brutal. USC doesn't have to play until Saturday night against UCLA. Well, Arizona has to go play in 46 hours or something, 44 hours. It's a bunch of garbage. But
you know what, Eric? Though maybe it's good practice for the Pac-12 tournament, because you got to play 3 games in a row there if you want to win the whole thing, or 4 in some cases of some teams.
Yeah, but at least there's I guess so. I just don't like it in this case. But Stanford's not very good. At least they're not playing a UCLA or an Oregon, somebody that can really jump up and bite them. Not really worried about it. Arizona wins both games by double digits. One thing we did not talk about tonight, Shane, just want to get one final thought on it. The officiating in the first half, at least, in tonight's game was among the most dreadful I can remember in any Arizona basketball. Just bad calls on both sides. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why it was Arizona's most impressive half of the season, because in spite of that, in spite of Pell Larson picking up 3 fouls and Christian Koloko and Azuolas Tubelis spending significant time on the bench with 2 fouls, Tubelis didn't score in the first half, and Arizona scored 51 points. But yeah, you know what? They're consistent, Eric. Our expectations are low, and they met them, and that's all that they can do.
Accurate.
So I'm looking forward to not having to deal with them in the NCAA tournament.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, your Arizona Wildcats are regular season Pac-12 champions for the first time in 4 years, and it feels great. And I just, we had talked about this team before the season. We were excited about them, and they delivered. They delivered beyond our wildest expectations. And as I said, now we're into March, and it's the most exciting month of the year, especially when it comes to Arizona basketball, men's and women's. We had one team that played into April last year. Will we have another or two? Should be a fun month to find out. So, Shane, just a very exciting overall night. Kind of a weird show that we had this week with no guest. But if it all comes true, we may have one of the most exciting guest lineups we have ever had coming up on next week's show.
Eric, I didn't think you would possibly oversell it, and get people's expectations so high.
But if it comes to fruition, I am super excited. You'll see what we're talking about next week. I want to thank our great sponsors, Backcourt Marketing, who has been loyal with us for more than 6 months now. Really glad to have them on board. And of course, our friends at Ice Shaker. Check them out, iceshaker.com. And of course, backcourtmarketing.com for our presenting sponsors. So for Shane Dale, I am Eric Cohen. As I always like to say, bear down.